Welcome to the Untold Affairs. Before we dive into today's story, we have a humble request. Please consider subscribing to this new channel. Help us hit our first milestone of 1,000 subscribers. Your support will motivate us to keep bringing you more exclusive original cheating wife stories. And now, let's get started with today's story. The city lights shimmered in the darkness of the night, as if hundreds of stars had descended onto the earth. Adam Walker sat inside his black Mustang, his fingers lightly pressing against the steering wheel. Soft jazz music played on the radio, but Adam's eyes were elsewhere. His tired eyes carried an emptiness and an unfamiliar restlessness. He was heading home after a long day at the office, but tonight something felt different. After arriving home, he parked his car in the garage and walked slowly toward the front door. In his hands was a bouquet he had bought for his wife, Amy. Today was their wedding anniversary. Adam glanced at his watch. It was 11 p.m. He knew he was late, but he thought Amy would understand. As he opened the door, an eerie silence greeted him. There was a faint smell of wine in the living room, and two half-empty wine glasses sat on the table. A frown formed on his forehead. "Amy?" he called out softly. No response. He took off his jacket and tossed it on the sofa before heading toward the stairs. The sound of his footsteps broke the heavy silence of the house. As he approached the bedroom door, he heard faint whispers and laughter from behind it. Adam's heart began to pound. His breathing quickened. He gently pushed the door open, and what he saw shattered his entire world. Amy was on the bed with another man, a stranger. The room was dimly lit, but even in that faint light, Adam could see everything clearly. "Amy." Adam's voice trembled. Amy turned to look at him abruptly. Her face was a mixture of fear, shame, and panic. "Adam, I can explain." The stranger jumped up, visibly nervous. Tears welled up in Adam's eyes, but his face was frozen in cold silence. How could you do this, Amy?" No words came from Amy's mouth. She just stood there, as if her tongue had been sewn shut. Without saying another word, Adam walked out of the room. His steps were heavy, as if he was sinking into a dark abyss. Sometime later, Adam sat in his Mustang. His eyes were filled with tears, but his face was hard and unyielding. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. He knew his life would never be the same again. He pulled his phone from his pocket and dialed a number. "Nicholas, I need your help, right now." Nicholas was Adam's oldest friend, a private investigator who had solved countless cases. "Adam, this late? Is everything okay?" "No, Nick, nothing is okay. I need to know the truth. Every single truth." Nicholas didn't ask any more questions. "I'm on my way." The next morning, Nicholas arrived at Adam's house. In his hands were a laptop and some files. The two of them sat in the living room. Adam held a cup of coffee, but he hadn't taken a single sip. "Adam, I'll dig into everything. Amy's call records, text messages, every little detail. But you need to hold yourself together." Adam spoke softly. "Nick, I just want to know how long this has been going on. I want to know if it was just a mistake, or something more." Nicholas opened his laptop and started working. Amy's call logs and text messages began to appear on the screen. "Who is this man?" Adam said, pointing at the screen. "Ryan Carter," Nicholas replied. "He's a freelance photographer, but his personal life is highly questionable. He's cheated on several girlfriends before, and this isn't the first time he's been involved with a married woman." Hatred flickered in Adam's eyes. "I need everything on him, Nick. Every detail. I won't let this slide." Nicholas nodded in agreement. A few days later, Adam stopped working at his company. His mind was consumed with thoughts of his wife and Ryan. Nicholas had provided him with every detail of Ryan's activities. "Ryan will be staying at a resort near the woods this weekend. Alone." Adam took a deep breath. "Nick, this game ends now. I'll finish it here." That night, Adam prepared his Mustang. In his bag were a few essential items. He knew he was heading into a fight where winning or losing wouldn't matter. Only justice would. His Mustang tore through the winding roads of the forest like lightning. His eyes held a cold determination, and his fists gripped the steering wheel tightly. The story had only just begun. And this wasn't just a fight for revenge, but for self-respect. Adam's Mustang roared deeper into the dense forest. The night's darkness wrapped the road in its shadow, and light raindrops traced thin lines across the windshield. His hands were locked onto the steering wheel, his eyes cold with resolve. One thought echoed in his mind. I'll write the end of this story on my terms. As he approached the resort, Adam pulled over to the side of the road. He checked the location on his phone. Ryan Carter was staying here, in a private villa, tucked deep in the woods, isolated from everyone else. He grabbed his bag and started walking toward the villa. Faint light seeped through the villa's windows into the darkness. Adam activated the small camera hidden inside his jacket. His plan was clear, to get Ryan to confess his sins and bring him to a point where he'd pay for what he'd done. Reaching the door, Adam knocked softly. After a moment, the door creaked open, and Ryan stood there. A wineglass was in his hand, and a confident smirk rested on his face. "Adam, you're here?" Ryan's face turned pale for a split second. Adam's eyes were hollow. In a cold tone, he said, "Aren't you going to invite me in?" Ryan stepped back hesitantly, leaving the door open. Adam walked inside and scanned the room. 2 wine glasses sat on a table, and a woman's scarf was draped across the sofa. "You seem comfortable, Ryan." Adam's voice was sharp. Ryan tried to chuckle, but his voice wavered. "Look, Adam, I can explain. This was a mistake." Adam took a step closer. "A mistake? A mistake happens once, not repeatedly. You broke my trust, trampled on my respect, and now you want to dismiss it as a mistake?" Ryan placed his wine glass on the table and looked at Adam. "Amy told me she wasn't happy with you. She said you ignore her, make her feel alone. I just wanted to make her happy." Adam's fists clenched tightly. "You think this will stop me? You think you can justify this?" The air grew heavy with silence. Ryan tried to take a step back, but Adam pulled a small recording device from his pocket. "Speak now, Ryan. Look into the camera and tell the truth. I want you to admit that you destroyed my marriage, shattered my trust." Ryan glanced at the camera, his hands trembling. "Okay, I confess. I met Amy. I pursued her. I thought I could turn her against you, but I never expected it to go this far. I'm sorry, Adam." Adam stopped the recording and said softly, "Sorry? Your apology won't give me back my broken marriage, Ryan." The silence hung heavy in the air. Ryan looked at Adam's face, but there was no sign of mercy, no emotion. The next morning, Adam stood by his car at the edge of the forest. In his hand were the camera and the recording device. Behind him, the villa had been reduced to ashes. He slowly pulled out his phone and called Nicholas. "Nick, it's done. I have the proof. Now I'll show Amy what she's lost." Nicholas's voice was grave. "Adam, you're doing the right thing, but be careful. Don't let this revenge consume you." Adam hung up the phone and drove down the winding road, disappearing into the mist of the forest. A few hours later, Adam arrived home. Amy was sitting in the living room. Her face was marked with regret. She stood up as Adam entered. "Adam, I want to apologize." Adam didn't respond. He placed the recording device on the table. "Listen to this and look at yourself. Look at what you've done to me." Amy's trembling hands pressed the play button. Ryan's voice echoed through the room. "I pursued Amy. I destroyed your marriage." Tears streamed down Amy's face as she looked at Adam. "Adam, please forgive me. I admit my mistake." Adam's voice was cold. "Your apology comes too easily, Amy. But for me, this pain will never end." He picked up his jacket and walked toward the door. "I'm leaving for a few days. When I return, You need to decide if you're worthy of staying in this house." The door closed behind him, and Amy collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. Outside, Adam's Mustang roared to life and disappeared into the night. His heart was filled with anger, pain, but most of all, emptiness. The Mustang cut through the dark night, its headlights slicing through the inky blackness. The low hum of the engine was the only sound on the empty road. Inside the car, Adam was silent, his mind a hurricane of emotion. His eyes welled with tears, blending with a cold, seething anger. He turned on the radio, but no song could pierce the deafening silence within him. After hours of driving, Adam pulled his car into the parking lot of an old motel on the outskirts of the city. This place was a relic of his past, a quiet refuge he had often used to escape from the pressures of life. The old manager at the reception recognized him immediately. "Adam? At this hour? Everything okay, son?" Adam forced a faint smile. "Just need some peace for a few days." The small motel room was dimly lit. Adam locked the door behind him and collapsed onto the bed. His mind was a chaotic loop of Amy and Ryan, the images of that night replaying endlessly in his head. The betrayal, the whispers, the shame. It all clung to him like a suffocating fog. The next morning. Soft sunlight filtered through the thin curtains. Adam's eyes fluttered open, and the familiar emptiness greeted him once again. He reached for his phone and hesitated for a moment before dialing Nicholas's number. "Adam, how are you holding up?" Nicholas's voice carried genuine concern. "Nick, I can't seem to find peace. It feels like I'm trapped in a dark tunnel with no way out." "Adam, you've collected the proof. You need to talk to Amy. It's time to end this." Adam took a deep breath. "You're right, but I can't just let this end like this. I need something more." Nicholas spoke in a calm voice. "Do you think revenge will bring you peace?" "Sometimes, Adam, forgiveness is the only way to save yourself." Adam hung up the phone. He knew forgiveness wasn't the answer. A few hours later. Adam stood in front of his home's door. He took a deep breath and slowly opened it. In the living room, Amy was sitting on the couch. Her eyes were red, likely from crying all night. As soon as she saw Adam, she stood up. "Adam, you came back?" Without looking at her, Adam said, "Sit down. We need to talk." Amy walked slowly to the couch and sat down. Adam placed a recording device on the table and turned it on. "You need to hear this." Ryan's voice echoed through the room. "I pursued Amy. I destroyed your marriage." Tears began streaming down Amy's face. "Adam, I truly regret this. I love you. It was a mistake. Please, forgive me." Adam's voice carried no softness. "Mistake? Amy, when you shared a bed with that man, it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, and every choice comes with a price." Amy, sobbing, reached out to hold Adam's hand, but he pulled his hand back. "There's nothing left between us, Amy." Adam reached into his pocket and pulled out divorce papers, handing them to Amy. "Sign these. It's time for you to reap what you've sown." Amy's hands trembled as she signed the papers, her head hanging low. The next day. Adam handed the divorce papers to his lawyer. He had made his decision. It was time to start his life anew. But it wasn't that simple. That night, Adam stood on his balcony, staring out at the city lights. A whiskey glass rested in his hand, and an odd emptiness filled his eyes. Is this the end? Is this the relief I was searching for? Just then his phone buzzed. Nicholas's name lit up on the screen. "Adam, I need to tell you something. This story isn't over yet." Adam's heart began to race. "Nick, what is it?" "Ryan, he's met with Amy again. I have copies of their messages. This isn't over, my friend. This game has become far more dangerous." The glass slipped from Adam's hand and shattered into pieces on the floor. "I'll finish this, once and for all." That cold silence returned to Adam's eyes. In the darkness of the night, Adam's face glimmered faintly under the dim light. This story was no longer just about betrayal and revenge. It had become a battle. The night deepened, and a faint breeze blew across Adam's balcony. His face was rigid, his eyes reflecting a hollow emptiness. The phone was still in his hand, and Nicholas's voice echoed in his ears. "Ryan, he's met with Amy again. I have copies of their messages. This isn't over, my friend." Adam put the phone down. He gripped the balcony railing tightly, his knuckles turning white. He was thinking, when would this all end? He never intended to forgive Amy, but he thought that signing those divorce papers would close this chapter. But no, this game wasn't over yet. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Adam put on his jacket, grabbed his car keys, and walked out the door. He called Nicholas. "Nick, I need you. I can't take this anymore." Nicholas replied in a calm voice, "I knew you'd say that. I'm sending you the location. But be careful, Adam. Don't make a mistake in anger." Adam ended the call and started his Mustang. The engine's deep growl echoed as he drove through the empty streets of the city. His eyes stayed fixed ahead, his mind locked on one goal, to end this, once and for all. A few hours later, Adam parked his car outside an old hotel. This place was far from the city, in a desolate area. The windows were covered with curtains, and a few cars sat scattered in the parking lot. Nicholas had told him that Ryan and Amy were staying here. Adam reached into his pocket, pulled out a small handgun, and tucked it securely inside his jacket. Taking a deep breath, he walked into the hotel lobby. "I need the key to room 305, Adam said to the receptionist. The receptionist gave him a suspicious glance, but handed over the key without any questions. Adam climbed the stairs. The sound of his boots echoed faintly in the silent hallway. His breathing was steady, but his eyes burned with cold determination. Standing in front of room 305, Adam knocked softly. "Who is it?" Amy's voice came from inside. Adam remained silent. He gently pushed the door. It wasn't locked. Inside the room, Ryan and Amy stood frozen. Ryan had a wine glass in his hand, and Amy's eyes went wide the moment she saw Adam at the door. "Adam, how are you here?" Amy's voice trembled as she spoke. Ryan began to step back, his face turning pale. "Because this story isn't over," Adam said in a cold, unyielding voice. The tension in the room was suffocating. Adam shut the door behind him and stepped further into the room. "You thought you could betray me and walk away, Amy? And you, Ryan, you thought you could destroy my life and I'd just let you go?" Ryan spoke in a trembling voice. "Look, Adam, I'm sorry for this. It was all a mistake." Adam reached into his jacket. Both Ryan and Amy flinched, stepping back in fear. But Adam didn't pull out a gun. Instead, he took out his phone and started recording. "Now both of you will tell the truth, and it will all be recorded. Tell me, how long has this been going on?" Amy, sobbing, said, "Adam, please, forgive me. This was all my fault. I felt lonely." Ryan added hesitantly, This has been going on for a few months. I pursued your wife, Adam. I admit it." Adam stopped the recording. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and took a deep breath. "This truth will come out now. I won't let either of you escape this." Amy tried to step toward Adam, but he raised his hand, stopping her in her tracks. "The time for me to listen to your voice is over, Amy. I'm going to make one final decision, and after that, both of you will face the consequences." Adam opened the door and walked out. His steps were sharp and purposeful. The next day, Adam uploaded the video to social media. The video spread like wildfire. Ryan's professional image was shattered. Amy's face became the subject of relentless online discussion. Nicholas called Adam. "Adam, what you did, it was risky, but maybe it was the right thing." Adam stared out of the window. "This story isn't over yet, Nick. Not yet." A few days later, Amy messaged Adam. I need to see you. One last time. Adam read the message but didn't reply. There were no more tears in his eyes, no anger left, just silence, a silence that comes before a storm. The story was about to take yet another dark turn. Adam stared at Amy's message on his phone screen. I need to see you. One last time. A cold smile flickered across his lips. For a brief moment he wondered, could this really end? Could one meeting possibly answer the thousands of questions clawing at his soul? But then the same cold determination returned to his eyes. Adam typed a response. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. The same restaurant where we first met. Adam placed his phone on the table and picked up his whiskey glass. The room was engulfed in darkness, with only the moonlight filtering through the window, casting a faint glow on the floor. He stood by the window, staring at the city lights. In his mind, the scenes from the past few days played like a movie. Amy's betrayal, Ryan's face, and their recording going viral on social media. The next evening. Adam arrived at the restaurant a few minutes early. It was the same place where he had first proposed to Amy. The soft lighting, faint music, and people sitting around. But to Adam, all of it felt hollow now. Amy walked in. Dark circles loomed under her tired eyes, and her steps lacked confidence. She wore a light gray dress, but regret and fear were written all over her face. Adam looked at her, but his eyes held no warmth. "Sit down," Adam said in a cold voice. Amy pulled out a chair and sat down. Silence filled the space between them for a few moments. "Adam, I know what I did to you is unforgivable, but I truly regret it." Adam looked at her. "Regret? Do you think regret will erase all of this? Do you know how much I trusted you, Amy? You were my world, but you broke me." Tears rolled down Amy's cheeks. "I felt lonely, Adam. You were always buried in your work. I was weak." Adam took a deep breath. "Weakness isn't an excuse, Amy. You made a choice. You crushed my trust. And now I can't forgive you." Amy's voice trembled as she asked, "So, what happens now, Adam? Is there no place left for me in your heart?" Adam looked at her, his eyes a mixture of pain and anger. "No, Amy. There's nothing left for you in my heart. Whatever was there died that night when I saw you with him." The restaurant's atmosphere became heavy with silence. Amy lowered her gaze, unable to meet Adam's eyes. Some time later, Adam and Amy stepped out of the restaurant. A light drizzle was falling. Amy reached out to hold Adam's hand, but he pulled his hand away. "You have two choices, Amy. Either start your life somewhere else or let this guilt consume you. But me, I won't let you back into my life." Amy's voice trembled. "Adam, please forgive me." Adam looked into her eyes, and there was no anger, just emptiness. Without saying another word, he turned and walked toward his car. The next day, Adam was sitting in his office. Files for the company's new projects lay open in front of him, but his mind was elsewhere. Just then, Nicholas called. "Adam, I need to tell you something. Ryan is missing. There's no one at his apartment, and his phone is turned off." Worry lines creased Adam's forehead. "You mean he ran away?" "Maybe. Or something else. But one thing's for sure. This isn't over yet." Adam took a deep breath. "Nick, I need his location no matter what it takes. If this story isn't over, then I'm going to end it myself." A few hours later, Nicholas sent Adam Ryan's last known location, an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. Adam immediately started his Mustang and sped towards the factory. His eyes were locked on the road, and his mind was filled with one thought, finishing this once and for all: the darkness of night. The factory stood silent and desolate. A faint light flickered inside. Adam pushed the gate open carefully and stepped in. Dust and dampness covered the factory walls. With each step, his breaths grew heavier. Suddenly, he noticed a shadow moving. "Ryan!" Adam shouted. Ryan was sitting in a corner. His face was pale, filled with fear and panic. Adam, please don't kill me. I'll leave everything behind. I'll disappear. Adam took slow, deliberate steps toward him. You thought you could just walk away from this game? You ruined my life, Ryan, and now you'll pay for what you've done. Fear was etched into Ryan's eyes. Adam reached into his pocket, pulled out a gun, and aimed it at Ryan. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. The room fell into a heavy silence. Ryan collapsed to the ground, blood seeping from his chest and staining his shirt. Adam's eyes went wide. His hands trembled as he looked down at the gun still in his grip. Did he fire that shot, or was someone else here? The echo of the gunshot hung in the air, freezing the moment in time. The sound of the gunshot bounced off the factory walls, fading into an eerie stillness. Ryan's lifeless body lay on the cold floor, a red stain spreading across his chest. Adam stood frozen, the gun trembling in his hand, his eyes wide in shock. Did I do this?" Adam muttered, staring at the gun. His own ragged breathing filled his ears. He took a few steps back, his back hitting the cold wall. He shut his eyes tightly. No, I didn't do this. His attention was suddenly drawn to a shadow moving in the corner of the room. In the faint light, he saw it. Someone else was there. "Who's there?" "Come out." Adam's voice echoed through the factory. From the darkness emerged a familiar face. "Amy. What are you doing here?" Adam's voice trembled with disbelief. Amy's eyes were filled with tears, but her face was rigid, emotionless. In her hand was a small pistol, still smoking from being recently fired. "Adam, this all got out of my control. I couldn't handle it anymore." Adam's anger had now escalated. Did you shoot Ryan?" Amy dropped the pistol onto the floor. "Yes, Adam. I did, but it wasn't my fault. Seeing both of you in that situation, I didn't know what to do." Adam lowered his gun and slowly walked toward her. "You've brought me and this entire situation to a point where there's no turning back. Now you'll have to face the consequences, Amy." Amy said, trembling, "Forgive me, Adam, please." A few hours later, Adam called the police. Within minutes, police cars arrived outside the factory. Blue and red lights flashed everywhere. Amy was handcuffed and placed in the back of a police car. Adam stood still, watching the scene unfold. His eyes were empty, and his heart carried a pain that couldn't be described in words. "Mr. Adam Walker," a police officer approached him. "Yes?" "We need to ask you a few questions. Please come with us to the station." Adam nodded and walked toward the police car. At the police station, Adam sat alone in the interrogation room. The room was dimly lit, and a file lay on the table. After some time, a police officer entered and sat in front of him. "Mr. Walker, we are certain you are not directly involved in this case, but we need your statement." Adam took a deep breath and said, "I'll tell you everything." Adam recounted the entire series of events, how he discovered his wife with someone else, how he hired Nicholas to uncover the truth, how he confronted Ryan, and finally, how Amy shot Ryan in the factory. The officer, taking notes, said, "Your story seems consistent, Mr. Walker, but we'll need to investigate further. For now, you can go home." Adam walked out of the room and stood at the gate outside the police station. His eyes stared into the darkness of the night. A few days later, Amy was presented in court. Adam was there to testify. His eyes never lifted to meet Amy's. The judge delivered the verdict. Amy Walker is found guilty of second-degree murder. She is sentenced to 15 years in prison. Tears welled up in Amy's eyes as she looked at Adam. "Adam, I'm sorry." Adam lowered his gaze and said nothing. A few months later, Adam sold his house. He left his office and decided to move away from the city and start over somewhere new. He started his Mustang and hit the highway. On the road, he thought about his past memories, the first time he met Amy, their wedding day, the happy moments they had shared. But behind every beautiful memory now lay a deep wound. Final scene. Adam stood by a calm lake. The air was cool, and the moonlight shimmered on the water's surface. He took a deep breath and felt the emptiness inside him. Am I free now? Is this where the story ends? A message from Nicholas popped up on his phone. Adam, you did the right thing, but sometimes we have to answer some questions ourselves. Adam put the phone back in his pocket and stared at the lake. Maybe this wasn't the end. Maybe it was a new beginning. But for Adam, the wound of betrayal would always remain buried deep within him. A gentle breeze blew across the lake's edge. Adam Walker sat on the hood of his Mustang, staring at the calm water's surface. The sky was clear, and the moon shone brightly, reflecting off the lake. For a few moments it felt as if everything had frozen, no pain, no anger, no regret. But this peace was fleeting. The storm within him was still far from over. The vibration of his phone broke his trance. Nicholas's name flashed on the screen. Adam picked up the call. Adam, I think there's something you need to know. What is it, Nick? What new twist is it now? Adam's voice carried exhaustion. It's about Amy's case. I went to see her in prison. Adam, she told me she's innocent. She claimed she didn't intentionally kill Ryan. Adam took a deep breath. Nick, this case is over. The court has given its verdict. I can't drag this out again. But Adam, she said something else. She said Ryan had something he was hiding, a diary or a file, something containing his secrets. If we find that diary, maybe another part of the story could come to light. Adam's heart began to race. Can you find this diary? I'll try. But Adam, if this is true, it could mean another battle for you. Be ready. The call ended. A storm of questions erupted in Adam's mind. Was all of this truly an accident? Did Ryan have something hidden that could change the entire narrative? 3 days later, Adam received a message from Nicholas. I found the diary. We need to meet. Adam immediately started his car and headed toward the city. The roads were empty, and there was an eerie silence in the air. One question kept echoing in Adam's mind. What is the truth? Nicholas's office was in the old part of the city. It was a small space cluttered with stacks of old files. As Adam walked in, he saw Nicholas sitting at his desk, flipping through the pages of the diary. Nick, what did you find? Nicholas pointed at the diary. This diary belongs to Ryan. Every word in here is disturbing, Adam. Ryan wasn't just a cheater, he was a blackmailer, too. He trapped multiple women and extorted money from them, and... Nicholas turned a page and said, Amy's name is in this diary, but the story is different. The relationship between Amy and Ryan didn't start because Amy was lonely. It started because Ryan blackmailed her. Adam's face went pale. Blackmail? What do you mean? Amy once withdrew money from your bank account without telling you. Ryan found evidence of it. He threatened her, saying if she didn't comply with him, he'd tell you everything. Out of fear, Amy started going along with him. A storm of anger and pain erupted in Adam's eyes. So, Amy's affair wasn't entirely voluntary? She was forced? It's not entirely clear, Adam, but according to the diary, Ryan pressured her. He manipulated her and pulled her into his web. Adam sank into a chair, his mind numb. Nick, does this mean I wronged Amy? Was she truly forced? Nicholas took a deep breath. Adam, the truth is always bitter, but this diary brings a new reality to light. A few hours later, Adam sat in the visiting area of the prison. On the other side of the glass sat Amy. Her eyes were red and she looked frail. Adam, why are you here? To know the truth. Adam placed a page from the diary against the glass. Is this true, Amy? Was Ryan blackmailing you? Tears streamed down Amy's face. Yes, Adam. He blackmailed me. I withdrew money from your account and he caught me with evidence. I thought if you found out, you'd hate me." Adam's eyes welled up with tears. "Amy, if you had told me all this before, maybe none of this would have happened." Amy's voice trembled as she said, "Forgive me, Adam. I was weak." Adam placed his hand against the glass. This story should have never happened. The next day, Adam called Nicholas. "Nick, we need to give this diary to the police. Amy's case needs to be reopened." Nicholas nodded. "All right, Adam, we'll do this. But remember, this fight won't be easy." Adam took a deep breath. "I can't back down now. I'll get justice for Amy." The evening sun was setting. Adam's Mustang roared down the road. There was a new purpose in his eyes. This wasn't revenge. It was justice. Adam's Mustang raced down the deserted city streets. His eyes were filled with cold determination, and his mind was stormed with questions. The pages of the diary had once again turned his world upside down. He had convinced himself that Amy's betrayal was a result of her choices, but now it was clear. The story was far more complex and deep. As soon as Adam entered Nicholas's office, he slammed the diary onto the table. "Nick, we need to take this diary to the police. If every word in this is true, then Amy is innocent." Nicholas nodded. "Adam, I'm with you. But we need to understand that the court system works slowly. This diary will introduce new evidence, but it'll take time to exonerate Amy." Adam's fists clenched. "I don't care, Nick. I'll fight this to the very end." Nicholas took a deep breath and said, "All right, I'll contact a lawyer. We'll file a petition to reopen the case." 2 weeks later, Adam and Nicholas sat inside a courtroom. The room buzzed with anticipation. Across the table sat the prosecution lawyer and a police officer. The judge examined the documents and said, "This diary is significant evidence. The information recorded in it is serious and opens a new perspective on the case. The court orders a reinvestigation of this matter." Adam sighed in relief. The judge's words felt like a balm on the wounds of his soul. But the battle had only just begun. A few days later, Amy was temporarily released from prison. She stood in front of Adam, tears in her eyes. "Adam, forgive me. I lied to you. I should have trusted you." Pain was visible in Adam's eyes. "This isn't the time for apologies, Amy. We still have a fight ahead of us." Amy nodded silently. There was a strange silence between them, a silence filled with years of a broken relationship, shattered trust, and the possibility of starting over. Nicholas's revelation. Nicholas revealed new information to Adam. "Adam, I found Ryan's old bank records. He wasn't just blackmailing Amy. He targeted several other women as well. But the most shocking thing is, Ryan wasn't working alone. Someone else was behind him." Adam's face turned serious. "What do you mean? Are you saying Ryan was just a pawn?" "Exactly. I found some suspicious transactions leading to another account. This person isn't ordinary, Adam. This case is now much bigger than we thought." Adam placed his palms over his eyes. "Nick, I'm ready for this fight. We need to end this game at its roots." Chasing the darkness. Nicholas and Adam began tracking the suspicious accounts. Hours passed as lines of data scrolled across their screens. Finally, a name appeared. Mark Davidson. "Who is this man?" Adam asked, pointing at the screen. Nicholas said, "Mark is a powerful businessman. He's invested money in illegal operations multiple times. Ryan worked for him, and perhaps Amy was just another pawn in his plan." Adam's anger grew. So this wasn't just an affair, it was an entire conspiracy. The confrontation with Mark. Adam and Nicholas tracked down Mark's office. It was located on the 20th floor of a towering skyscraper. Adam took a deep breath and pushed open the door. In the center of the room, behind an enormous desk, sat a tall, broad-shouldered man. There was a glint of cunning in his eyes. "Adam Walker, I've heard about you. Mark said, his voice calm but firm. "You know about me, but I know everything about you. You used my wife, destroyed my home, and turned my life into hell." Mark smirked. "It was just business, Adam. Why are you taking it so personally?" Adam slammed his fist on the desk. "Your game is over. Every single one of your moves will be exposed. I'll make sure you face the full force of the law." Mark's face hardened. "If you do this, Adam, you'll have to pay the price." Adam stepped back and said, "Let's see who pays the price, Mark." That night, Adam and Nicholas handed over all the evidence to the police: Ryan's diary, bank records, and the incriminating documents against Mark. The police began planning a raid to arrest Mark. Adam sat in his Mustang and drove down the road. In his eyes was a faint glimmer of hope. The deep night. The night had grown darker. Adam Walker sat behind the wheel of his Mustang, speeding down the empty city streets. His eyes were cold with determination, and his mind was in turmoil. Mark Davidson's face kept flashing before him. "It was just business, Adam." Those words ignited a fire in his veins. His phone buzzed with a message from Nicholas. "The police have begun the operation. Both Mark's office and home are being raided. But, Adam, there's something more to this game. Be careful." Adam took a deep breath and pressed harder on the gas pedal. The next morning, Nicholas's office was filled with piles of files and evidence. The television was broadcasting live news coverage. Mark Davidson, a powerful businessman, has been charged with blackmail and fraud. Police have raided both his office and home. Adam turned off the TV. "Nick, do we have everything we need?" Nicholas picked up a file and said, "We've found a lot." Mark had an entire network: blackmail, money laundering, and the exploitation of multiple women. But Adam, we've also discovered something shocking. Nicholas opened the file and pulled out a photograph. It was a picture of Amy, taken at a fancy event with Mark. What was Amy doing here? Adam's face hardened. This event happened 3 months ago. Amy might have been a small part of this conspiracy, but she didn't know the full truth. Mark used Ryan to trap Amy. But here's something even more important, Adam. Nicholas flipped to another page in the file. Mark had a joint account in Amy's name. Your money was being used through it. Adam's head spun. This means Amy was dragged into this game against her will. She was being blackmailed. Nicholas nodded. And maybe by the time she realized it, she was too deep into the web to find a way out. Adam sank into a chair. Exhaustion and pain were clear in his eyes. "Nick, we need to save Amy. I have to talk to her." Facing the prison. Adam sat in the prison visiting area. Across the glass, Amy appeared. Her eyes were swollen, and her face looked tired and drained. "Adam, why are you here?" Adam took a deep breath and said, "To know the truth, Amy." "Is it all true? Were you blackmailed by Mark and Ryan?" Tears welled up in Amy's eyes. "Yes, Adam. I was so weak. I made a mistake. Ryan showed me the evidence, and out of fear, I did everything he said. I never wanted you to know. I was afraid of losing you." Adam spoke softly. "You should have trusted me, Amy." Amy's voice trembled. "I know, Adam. But now, it's too late." Adam looked into her eyes. "No, it's not too late. I'm going to get you out of here. But you need to help me. We need more evidence against Mark." Amy nodded. "I have some emails. Ryan and Mark wrote to me several times. If you can find those, maybe—" Adam said firmly, "I'll find them." Operation Mark Davidson, Nicholas, and Adam assembled a team. They began to dig deeper into Mark's accounts, emails, and phone records. After weeks of relentless effort, they finally found the emails Amy had mentioned. The emails contained conversations between Ryan and Mark, clearly stating that Amy had been blackmailed. "Adam, we've got everything we need." Nicholas's voice was filled with satisfaction. The day in court, Adam and Amy were both present in the courtroom. The prosecution lawyer presented all the evidence: Ryan's diary, bank records, emails, and video recordings. The judge said, "Based on all this evidence, Amy Walker is declared innocent." Meanwhile, Mark Davidson is sentenced to 25 years in prison for blackmail, fraud, and money laundering. Tears filled Amy's eyes. Adam looked at her. "It's over, Amy." A few weeks later, Adam and Amy stood by the ocean. The breeze gently touched their faces. "Adam, can we start over?" Amy said softly. Adam looked at her. "Maybe. But first, we need to forgive ourselves, Amy. We need to understand that we both made mistakes." Amy lowered her head. "Maybe we need some time." Adam looked at her and gave a faint smile. Both of them stood in silence, staring at the waves crashing against the shore. The story wasn't over. Perhaps it was a new beginning, one without lies, without betrayal. The ocean waves sparkled under the soft sunlight. Adam and Amy stood at the water's edge, gazing out into the horizon. Between them lay an unspoken silence, a silence filled with the weight of months of betrayal, lies, and revenge. Adam picked up a small stone from his pocket and tossed it into the water. The gentle waves swallowed it whole. "Is this really over, Amy?" Adam asked without looking at her. Amy spoke softly. "Legally, yes. But in our hearts, maybe never." Adam turned to look at her. His eyes carried both pain and an unending emptiness. "I want to forgive you, Amy. But every time I close my eyes, all I see is that night. The night that ended everything." Tears rolled down Amy's cheeks. "I know, Adam. I know that what I did is unforgivable. But I also know that I was weak. I lied to you. I hurt you. And now, I'm living with it." Adam took a deep breath. "Maybe we just need time. Maybe some wounds need time to heal." 2 months later, Adam had left the city. He sold his house and handed over the management of his office to someone else. He was now living in a small town where life was slow and peaceful. The soft morning light filtered through the window into his room. Adam sat on his balcony, sipping his coffee. There was still a shadow of old pain in his eyes, but somewhere a faint sense of relief could also be seen. The phone rang. Nicholas's name flashed on the screen. "Adam, how are you, buddy?" "I'm fine, Nick. I'm trying to leave everything behind." "That's good to hear. But I have something else to tell you. Amy has left the city. She left a letter for you." "A letter?" Adam said softly. "Yes. I'm scanning it and sending it to you now." A few minutes later, an email arrived on Adam's phone. He opened it and began reading the letter. "Adam, by the time you read this letter, I'll be far away. I know what I did to you is unforgivable. Every day, every night, I feel the pain I've caused you. But I can no longer be a part of your life. You deserve a better life, Adam. A life without lies, without betrayal. I will never forget you. And I hope you'll remember me sometimes, as a woman who loved you but broke your trust." Our story ends here. Amy. Adam placed the phone on the table after reading the letter. Tears welled up in his eyes, but a faint smile appeared on his face. Maybe this was right. Maybe this was the ending we needed. A few months later, Adam had adapted to a new life. He started a new company that provided cybersecurity services to small businesses. His life was now calm, but sometimes when he sat alone, Amy's face would appear in his mind. What if she had told me the truth earlier? What if I had understood her loneliness sooner? But these questions remained unanswered. Forever incomplete. A new beginning. One day, Adam met a woman at his office. Her name was Chloe, confident and honest, working on a project with Adam's company. "Mr. Walker, the report is ready. Do you need anything else?" Chloe said with a smile. Adam returned a faint smile. "No, Chloe, this is perfect. Thank you." A few days later, Adam and Chloe went out for coffee after a business meeting. Their conversation was light and natural. For the first time, Adam felt that maybe he could trust someone again. Towards the end, Adam stood by the lake. A gentle breeze brushed through his hair. He looked at an old message from Amy on his phone. "Can we start over?" Adam took a deep breath and turned off the screen. Life always gives us a second chance, but it's up to us how we use it. He looked out at the water, where the sun's rays danced on the surface. Adam had left his past behind. Amy was now just a memory, an unfinished chapter he would always carry with him. But life had given him the chance to start a new chapter. Every ending leads to a new beginning. Adam Walker's Mustang sped down the highway. The night had grown dark, and only the glow of his car's headlights cut through the shadows. Adam's eyes were fixed straight on the road, but his mind was elsewhere. The words from Amy's last letter echoed in his thoughts. Our story ends here. Amy had left the city, and after her departure, Adam's life felt hollow. He had fully taken over his company, Sentinel Cyber Solutions, and buried himself in work. But when the office emptied, when the silence of night filled his room, loneliness crept back in. That night, Adam was on his way to meet an old friend, Nicholas's office. The light in Nicholas's office was dim. Files lay scattered on the table, and data lines glowed on the computer monitor. Adam pushed open the door and stepped inside. "You're looking better, Adam," Nicholas said, his voice carrying a hint of concern. "Better? I'm not fine, Nick. Amy is gone. I've lost her." Nicholas took a deep breath. "Adam, you did everything you could, but sometimes things slip out of our control." Adam spoke softly. "Maybe. But it still feels like something is unfinished. This story isn't over, Nick." Nicholas pointed at the computer screen. "Adam, you might be right. I've been re-examining Mark's network. Some suspicious bank transactions have surfaced. These transactions were made recently, and some of them are linked to your accounts." Adam's face grew tense. "What? Are you saying someone is still using my accounts?" Nicholas nodded. "And this isn't a one-time occurrence. This pattern has been consistent for the past few weeks. It's someone who knows your system very well." A sense of unease settled in Adam's chest. Could it be Amy? Nicholas immediately replied, "No, Adam. Amy's location was tracked. She's living in a small town far away from all this. This is someone else, someone playing from the inside. Another conspiracy unfolds." Nicholas pulled up a map on the computer screen. "Look, these locations keep tracing back to one place, Huntsville, an old warehouse. I think we need to go there." Adam said without hesitation, "We're heading there right now. The warehouse, Huntsville." The night was cloaked in darkness. Adam and Nicholas parked their cars at a distance and began looking for a way to enter the warehouse. The warehouse was desolate, but faint lights flickered from within. Somewhere in the distance, the faint hum of machines could be heard. "Nick, stay alert. We need to move carefully." Inside, Adam and Nicholas found rows of computer screens and towering server setups. In the center of the room sat a man, typing furiously. "Who's there?" the man asked, startled. Adam pointed his gun at him. "Stand up and identify yourself." The man turned around slowly. Fear was evident in his eyes. "My name is John. I worked for Mark, but I'm just a pawn." Nicholas stepped forward angrily. "Do you even realize how many lives pawns like you have destroyed?" John trembled as he spoke. "This network isn't entirely dismantled yet. Mark was just a face. The real mastermind is still out there, hiding in the shadows." Adam took a step closer, his voice cold and sharp. "Tell me the name. Who is it?" John handed Adam a file. "Everything is in here. But I have one request. Let me go. I can't run anymore." Adam picked up the file and looked at Nicholas. "We need to get out of here. Call the police." The night chase. As soon as they left the warehouse, Adam and Nicholas informed the police. John was arrested, and all the data was seized by the authorities, closer to the truth. In Nicholas's office, Adam and Nicholas were flipping through the pages of the file. This name, David Clark, he's the mastermind behind this entire network. He used Mark like a pawn, and now he's hiding somewhere. A new determination sparkled in Adam's eyes. This story will end now, no matter what. Nicholas spoke in a serious tone. Adam, this man is dangerous. If we catch him, this game will be over, but we have to proceed carefully. The final night. Adam stood on his balcony. He looked at the last picture of Amy on his phone. Maybe one day everything between us will be okay, but right now, I need to finish this fight. He took a deep breath and stared into the darkness of the night. The game had now entered its final stage. The cabin, Huntsville outskirts. The evening had faded into night, and Adam Walker's Mustang stopped in front of a quiet cabin on the outskirts of Huntsville. Hidden among thick trees, the small wooden house seemed to hold dark secrets. According to Nicholas's information, David Clark was last seen here. Adam took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. The air was cold, and the rustling leaves whispered in the night. A faint light glowed from inside the cabin. Adam reached into his jacket where his pistol rested. "It's time to end this, Clark," Adam whispered to himself. He approached the cabin door and gently pushed it open. The door creaked as it swung inward. The sight inside made Adam freeze for a moment. Maps and documents were scattered across the table. Monitors lined the walls, showing live surveillance feeds. But no one was there. The cabin was empty. Suddenly, a faint noise broke the silence. Adam immediately raised his pistol. "Who's there?" A soft voice came from the corner. "Please, don't shoot." It was a woman's voice. Adam lowered his pistol slightly and moved toward the corner. He saw a young woman whose face was pale with fear. "Who are you?" Adam asked firmly. "My name is Sarah. I used to work for Clark, but I left everything. He's a dangerous man." Adam looked into her eyes. "Do you know where Clark is?" Sarah spoke softly. "No. But he was supposed to come here soon. Maybe in a little while." Adam took a deep breath. "All right, stay with me. We're getting out of here." But then another voice echoed through the cabin. "Enough, Adam. You've come too far." A shadow appeared in the doorway. David Clark. A pistol was clutched in his hand, and a sinister glint shone in his eyes. "You took my most trusted people away from me. Now I'm going to end you." Adam raised his pistol, but Clark fired first. Adam threw himself to the side, and the bullet grazed his shoulder. A wave of pain surged through his body. Sarah tried to hide behind a cupboard, but Clark aimed his gun at her. "Out, now." Suddenly, there was movement at the door. Another voice echoed, "Stop!" Adam immediately recognized that voice. Amy. Amy stood at the door, her face filled with fear, but her eyes carried firm resolve. What are you doing here?" Adam groaned in pain. "Nicholas told me everything. I thought you were in danger. I couldn't leave you alone, Adam." Clark laughed mockingly. "Well, this just got even more interesting. The whole family is here now. This makes my job easier." Clark pointed his gun at Amy. "It's time to end this game." But at that moment, Adam saw an opening. Summoning his last bit of strength, he lunged at Clark. Both men fell to the ground. The pistol skidded across the floor. Amy quickly grabbed the pistol and aimed it at Clark. "Stop! Don't move!" Clark smirked. "You can't shoot me, Amy. You didn't do it before, and you won't do it now." Amy's fingers trembled on the trigger. Adam spoke softly. "Do it, Amy. End this." Clark made one last attempt to lunge forward, but the gunshot rang out. Silence filled the room. Clark collapsed to the ground, his body motionless. The room fell. Silent. The pistol slipped from Amy's hands. She ran to Adam and held him. "Adam, are you okay?" Despite the pain, Adam gave a faint smile. You did it." Sarah stepped out from the corner, her voice trembling. Is it over? Adam replied, Yes, it's over. The next morning, the police had arrived at the cabin. Clark's network had been dismantled. Sarah was under police protection. Adam and Amy sat together in a hospital room. Adam's shoulder was bandaged. You saved my life, Amy, Adam said. I didn't want to lose you again, Adam. I've already made so many mistakes. Adam took her hand. Maybe it's time for a new beginning. But this time we need to do it with honesty and trust. Tears welled up in Amy's eyes. Yes, Adam, we can do this. A few weeks later, Adam and Amy were living in a small cottage. The sound of ocean waves could be heard from their balcony. Can we rebuild this, Adam? Amy asked. Adam replied with a soft smile. Yes. Slowly, one step at a time. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow on their faces. The ocean waves gently crashed against the shore with a soft murmur. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. Adam and Amy stood on their balcony, coffee mugs in hand, their faces serene. After months of turmoil, pain, and conspiracies, they were finally here, safe, calm, and most importantly, happy. This was the same home Adam had bought years ago by the ocean, a small cottage surrounded by greenery, far from the noise of city life. It's beautiful, Adam, Amy said with a faint smile. Adam looked at Amy. And it's because we chose to fix it together. We didn't give up. Amy held Adam's hand. I thought we'd never make it here, but you forgave me. And I tried to forgive myself. Adam spoke softly. We both made mistakes, Amy, but we learned from them. And that's what matters. A new beginning. Adam had stabilized his company completely. Sentinel Cyber Solutions had grown into a successful cybersecurity firm. Adam had handed over day-to-day operations to his team so he could focus more on his personal life. Amy had also found a new path. She channeled her pain and experiences into words and wrote a book titled Shadows of Trust. It was a story of a broken marriage, betrayal, and forgiveness. The book touched thousands of lives, and Amy found her identity again. 1 year later, there was a small party by the ocean. Close friends and family gathered around, soft music played in the background, and laughter filled the air. Amy wore a light blue dress, and in her arms was a tiny baby, Liam Walker. Adam approached and placed a gentle hand on Amy's shoulder, smiling faintly. Look at him, our son. Did you ever think we'd make it here? Tears welled up in Amy's eyes. No, but I'm glad we did. This little one is the most beautiful part of our second chance. Adam looked at Liam, who stared back with curious eyes and a tiny smile. I promise I'll be the best father in the world to you. Liam let out a soft giggle, and Adam and Amy shared a warm glance. A new chapter in their lives. Adam and Amy had rebuilt their relationship. There were no more secrets, no more lies, and no more doubts. They worked as a team, supporting each other, understanding their flaws, and remaining honest with one another. Every Sunday, they would walk along the beach with Liam. Adam would teach him to touch the ocean waves, while Amy captured these moments on her camera. What do you think Liam will become when he grows up? Amy asked one day. Adam chuckled and said, anything he wants to be. But one thing's for sure, he'll never doubt others because we'll teach him how to trust. Final scene. One evening, Adam sat on the balcony. Liam was asleep inside, and Amy sat next to him. Adam gazed up at the sky. The soft breeze carried the sound of the distant waves, and the moonlight bathed everything in a gentle glow. Thank you, life, Adam whispered softly. Amy leaned her head on Adam's shoulder. Everything is okay now, Adam. We're okay. Adam held her hand. Yes, Amy, we're okay. The waves gently kissed the shore. The soft moonlight illuminated Adam, Amy, and their son, Liam's peaceful new life. This wasn't just a story of betrayal, revenge, and justice, and it was a story of forgiveness, acceptance, and love. A story of two broken people who chose to rebuild their shattered world and embrace a new beginning. Every ending marks the beginning of something new, and Adam and Amy chose to live their beginning in the most beautiful way possible.